is modeling reflections in the coordinate plane, so we're just going to be reflecting on the coordinates again. So we're going to be on page 47, 48, and 49. So the first one that we're going to look at is this shape right here, and we're going to reflect across the x-axis. So again, I know some of you are probably getting tired of patty paper, but it really is the best way for most students to see and understand what we're doing. So I'm going to take a piece of patty paper and I'm going to mark the y-axis. I'm going to mark the x-axis, and then I'm going to mark all of my points. So we have A, B, C, D, E, and F. And this J right here is just saying that it's figure J. So you can see it says figure J, so that's what that letter means. So we are going to reflect it over the x-axis. So again, we have all of the coordinates listed out. Remember, it's x, comma, y, and then we'll move this. So it's x, comma, y, and I just want to verify that that's where it's at. So I count along the x-axis to +2, and then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's point A. All right. So what we are going to do, I'm going to lay that there when we reflect it across the x-axis. So if you remember when we were reflecting previously, we kept reflecting over a line. Like that's the line that we would fold it on. So you can see that I am going to fold it along that horizontal axis, the x-axis, and you can fold it like that. And that's what our new image will look like. You can also flip the paper over. So that just gets a little bit harder to people because they get confused on which way to flip the paper. So we're flipping it this way so that the x-axis is still on the x-axis. But I'm just going to fold the paper because I think that's easier for most students to see. So we're folding along that line that I drew, and honestly, the stronger you make that line, like the more defined you make that, the better it is. So then I'm going to line up the y-axis on the bottom half of the y-axis. Okay, so then we have that point, that point, that point, and I don't think it went all the way through, so I'm going to mark the backs, just so that when it goes through, it makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to mark point A, point B, C, D, E, F. And I'm just going to slide this over so that I can keep up with where the points are at. So this is A prime, B prime is up here, C prime, D prime, E prime, and F prime. So if you look at that, you can see that our figure just flipped over. Okay, so it flipped over the x-axis. Now I'm going to show you another way. Oh, sorry, that was probably really loud. I dropped my pen on accident. So let's look at, and then I hit my phone. I'm so sorry. So then what we're going to look at is if you didn't have patty paper. So if you didn't have patty paper, if we're reflecting over the x-axis, notice if it was 1 point above, then it would be 1 point below. So you're going to use this line right here as your reference, and you're going to count above and below because we're going above the x-axis, then below the x-axis. So we're going to count, let's count D. So 1, 2, 3. It's 3 above the x-axis, so it's going to be 3 below. Okay, so that is our new figure with all of the primes. So let's go ahead and list our coordinates. So A prime, remember when you're listing your coordinates, you always have to count from the origin. So we're going to count from the origin, and I'm going to go over 1, 2. So it's right 2, so it's going to be a positive 2. And then I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'd be down 5. B prime is right 2 and down 1, so it would be 2, comma, negative 1. Remember, if it's down this direction, it's negative y values. Okay, C prime is over here, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see, I know I have a bunch of lines going on everywhere, but so this is C, so I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, you don't count until you move. So it's at the 4, and then it is down 1, so it would be negative 1. D, go back to the origin, so origin, and we're going to go, notice that's directly below the 6. So you don't always have to count. You can see that 6 is marked on the x-axis, so it's going to be at 6, comma, and then it's 1, 2, 3, so negative 3. Okay, let's look at E prime. E prime is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, so negative 4. Okay, F prime is right here. So it would be 1, 2, it's below the 6 again, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then it is down to the negative 6. So you can see over here it's at negative 6, or you can count down 6. So it's right 6 and then negative 6. Okay, again, we're going to look and see if you can see what's happening to the coordinates, but that's as much as we're going to do. So from 2, 5 to 2, negative 5, 2, 1 to 2, negative 1, 4, 1 to 4, negative 1, 6, 3 to 6, negative 3, 5, 4 to 5, 5, 4 to 5, negative 4, 6, 6 to 6, negative 6. So if you notice, the only thing that changed was the y value changed from positive to negative. Okay, and notice we've reflected over the x-axis, so the y changes. So you have to think about that because that always confuses students. So it's flipping over the x-axis, so the x value is not going to change because it didn't change if it was right or left. All it changed was if it was up instead of, or it was down instead of up. Okay, so that's page 47, and this is just what we just talked about, comparing them. The y value changed to negative. All right, now we're going to do page 48. So it's actually the same figure, so you don't need to recopy it. It's the same exact figure, if I could get it to line up. Okay, so there it is. Now we're going to reflect over the y-axis. Okay, so instead of folding along the x-axis like we did on the last one, you're going to actually fold along the y-axis. So I'm going to fold my paper along the y-axis. Okay, so it goes from being like this to flipping over, and it's going to be like that. Make sure you're careful about lining it up. So it's going to be there, there, there. My points got a little bit off. There and there. So I'm going to actually, because it looks like this one's just a little bit bigger, you could retrace it, but I'm going to do the other way that we talked about. So if A is to the right too, I'm going to move it. Yep, they're definitely off. So hopefully I'm going to try to erase and see if I can get it to erase. It's not erasing perfectly, but if you could, you can. So A is, instead of to the right, it's going to be 2 to the left. Instead of to the right, it's going to be 2 to the left. F is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. E is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. B, we already count. Oh, let's do D. So notice I'm staying on the same line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm staying on the same line. I am just moving from the right to the left. Okay, C is 1, 2, 3, 4. So go back. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is B, and I'm going to call it double prime since this is the second one, even though it's the first one on this paper. E double prime and D double prime. C. Okay. All right, so A double prime, let's write our coordinates. So again, when you're caught writing the coordinates, you go back to the original, or to the origin. So back to the origin, I'm going, it's at -2 and straight up. I'm going to use a different color to write our coordinates just so that it's a different color on top of it. So I'm going to go back to, so -2, because it went backwards, or went to the left, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, so it would be positive. Okay, now let's do B double prime. So start at the origin, it's at -2, so it went back 2, and then it's up 1. Okay, C double prime is 1, 2, oh look, it's straight above the 4, so but you can still count 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's -4 because it went left, and then it's up 1 unit. Okay, D is above the -6. See, it's above the -6, and then it's 1, 2, 3, or between 2 and 4 is 3. And it's still up, so it's still positive. Then E double prime is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it's -5, comma, and then it's up 4. And then F is at -6, comma, +6. Okay, let's compare these ones. So 2, 5 became -2, 5. 2, 1, -2, 1. So notice this time the first value, or the x value, is changing to a negative. 6, 6 became -6, 6. So the x value is changing. Okay, we are going to do one more, and I'm not going to do it as, or I'm going to do it on patty paper again. So we're going to do this one. So mark your x and y axis. So P, Q, R, S. Okay, notice it says reflect it over the x-axis. We're going to only do the x-axis, so I'm going to mark this one out, and we're going to reflect over x-axis. Okay, so remember the x-axis means we're going to fold it along this line, but I'm going to flip it because if you notice it's not all in one quadrant, so it's going to be a little weird. If I go like that, it still looks like the R is in the same spot. So what you're going to see me do is I'm going to fold it there just so that I realize that's the line I'm folding or flipping over, and I'm just going to open it up and lay it on top. Okay, so we're going to mark P, Q, R, S. So there's P prime. There's Q prime, R is up there, R prime, and then that one is the S prime. Okay, and the reason we're doing this is because I want to show you it's the same thing. Sometimes the values are already negative, so I want to show you what happens if the values are already negative. Okay, so let's write our coordinates. So P prime, Q prime, R prime, and S prime. So mark your origin. I'm going to go to P. So P is -1, -2, so it went back, and then it is down 1, down 2. Okay, Q, go back to the origin, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4, so down 4. Okay, R, go back to the origin, and it's up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So notice we didn't move along the x-axis, so it's still at 0. And then the y-axis is at 8. So you put 8 second. 0 first, then 8. S is up here, so we're going to the origin. Notice it's, if you drop it down, it hits right there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it went backwards, so it's -5. And then it is up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you can see it's at the 10. So those are the those are all of the points. Let's notice the difference between them. So again, we flipped over the x-axis, meaning the y value changes. So -2, 2 became -2, -2. 4, 4 became 4, -4. 0, 8 became 0, or 0, -8 became 0, 8. Oops, apparently that's at, oh, yep, I didn't drop. I think, so this point is actually marked at -6, but it should be -5. If you count to this point, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they just had in the book it was wrong. So it went from -5, -10 to -5, +10. So instead of being back and up, it's back and down. Or sorry, I said that backwards. So it went from -10 to +10. So every time the sign of the y value just changed. If it was positive, it changed to negative. If it was negative, it changed to positive. So that's what reflecting in the coordinates look like.